Good afternoon. Welcome to today's advisor forum, Residence Life, Housing Holds, and More. My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, and I'm thrilled that you all have joined us for this hour to learn more about residence life. I did want to let everyone know that our next advisor forum will be on Monday, February 26th from 12 to 1. It will be via Zoom, and it is going to be facilitated by our transfer advising committee on campus. They are going to present through the looking glass, the Missouri State transfer experience. So I'm really excited about that upcoming opportunity to learn more about that transfer experience from a student's lens. So please make plans to join us at that session. I also want to mention that we will be having the Kathy J. Davis Master Advisor Reception to celebrate our Excellence in Advising Award winners, our undergraduate award winners, as well as for the first time, a Graduate Advisor Award winner. So that will be held on Tuesday, March 19th from 4 to 5 p.m. in the Plaster Student Union Club. And again, although we will be recognizing our Excellence in Advising Award winners, this is an opportunity to celebrate advising campus-wide. All of us play such an important role in working with students and helping students reach their goals, helping them find the appropriate resources here on campus. So please make plans to join us for that hour of celebration of academic advising on our campus. Uh, Today's advisor forum will be recorded and posted on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel next week. So if you know of individuals who could benefit from the information shared today, please make sure that you point them in the direction of the Mo State Advising YouTube channel. Also remember that you can receive Master Advisor credit for watching a recorded advisor forum as long as you enter that information on the advisor certification database, which you can log in through the Academic Advising and Transfer Center website. Again, thank you for being here. I am now going to turn it over to Angie Strider, Associate Director in Residence Life, who is going to be presenting information for us. Angie?
Hello, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. So I wanted to share with you today some information about residence life, specifically with housing holds and things that impact probably your daily work with students. I do have a presentation I want to share. And then at the end, I am happy to take questions if folks have them. I will share with you, I'm going to put a link in the chat real quick. This is a link to what we kind of consider our advisor guide. I believe that it was emailed out in advance, but some of you might be joining us who haven't had the chance to pop that link open. So I am going to kind of be walking through that and then sharing some initiatives that we're doing within Residence Life today as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and then kind of get started answering some hopefully helpful information for you. So can everybody see my screen? Okay, great.
Yes.
So the first kind of thing I want everybody to know about is our general kind of umbrella, if you will, of residence life. It does consist of four main areas. The first one is education and development. So that's going to be our resident assistants, our hall directors, the staffing within the buildings. We have facilities and operations, which is going to be our custodial, our maintenance, our renovations within the buildings, dining services, which is hopefully self-explanatory, and then business services. Business services is mostly dealing with like the housing contracts, marketing, technology, that kind of thing. And so I'm going to focus a bulk of the information today on business service information and housing contracts, but also know that we have these other areas, and I'll get to that at the very end and touch on those as well. So a few things you can find. I put the link in the chat to our kind of advisor guide, if you will, to everything residence life, and how you get to that. If you were wondering, it is on our website under our frequently asked questions, under the question, what resources are available for academic advisors? And so you can find that link in either PDF or an interactive guide on our website anytime. So this is the guide I want to kind of walk through today. I want to start by talking a little bit about our housing policy. It is rooted in data, which I'll get to in a moment, but all single students under 21 years of age who have earned fewer than 27 hours of transferable credit after high school graduation are required to live on campus. And so for our incoming students, those dual enrollment credit hours do not count towards the 27. Our housing contracts are for the full academic year. And I'm going to talk through today what exceptions there are and some ways in which when students want to live off campus, kind of how to address that. But just know that essentially students are required to live with us under this Board of Governors housing policy. When a student does drop below 6 credit hours, we consider those students, part-time. And so those students are not required to live on campus. However, if they're in a housing contract with us and want to continue to live with us and taking less than 6 credit hours, they do need to meet with me. And that's just an intervention point to make sure that we are taking care of students. A lot of times I actually met with a student this morning and who dropped below 6 credit hours. And I said, have you talked to your academic advisor about these choices? And of course, the student hadn't. So we always want to make sure that we're getting them, pointed in the right direction. She also hadn't talked to financial aid. And of course, with our satisfactory academic progress policy, she has a lot of places she needs to go visit on campus today so that she is informed of her choices. So it's a great opportunity to visit with students whenever they drop below 6 credit hours and yet still want to live on campus. Now, you might be thinking, with that housing policy, when are holds placed? Essentially, when a student is required to live with us on campus, they're going to have a housing hold until they either complete an action, a request, and get an approval. Those housing holds are lifted when essentially they are no longer required to live on campus or they have an exemption with our office. So those are pretty much kind of the mainstays to know. Also, sometimes when advisors are meeting with students in the spring semester, we get questions about summer. Our housing hold does not apply to summer classes, so you will be able to register a student for those summer classes. The housing hold really only applies to fall and spring. Now, sometimes students want to either withdraw all their classes or drop some classes. So I want to kind of address that. When they are withdrawing from class, all their classes, then we do ask that they vacate their residence hall within 24 hours, because at that point they are no longer a student. And so what they would need to do when they drop their classes is come back to the residence hall and visit with the RA, who will get them checked out of the room. They take their keys and access card, and then the student does receive a prorated amount for both housing and meals, as long as that happens before the final drop deadline of the semester. Now, some things that you might think about if a student is looking to drop below 6 credit hours, but still remain on campus. Again, they do need to meet with me, but some things that you might talk with them about, especially making sure if they eventually want to move off campus so that they can reach or surpass the 27 required credit hours, they might consider taking a second block, maybe spring classes if it happens in the fall, or of course, summer coursework are all options that you can relay to a student if they're wanting to continue to live off campus. Now, one thing that also comes up, I know when students visit academic advisors in your office, sometimes they are in crisis and they have a lot of concerns and thoughts. And when they relate to residence halls, sometimes it revolves around roommate conflicts. If a student has a roommate conflict, we would always encourage them to start with their RA or their resident assistant on campus first to help mediate the situation. A lot of times things can be resolved through communication, and the RAs are trained to kind of help lead those conversations with roommates. However, if they feel like they've worked with their RA and still aren't getting the assistance or support that they need, we have a hall director on campus, or a hall director in each building that is a full-time university staff member that can help kind of navigate those conversations with students and roommates to help make sure that the student is happy in their environment. But I will say sometimes students don't want to talk to anybody, as we all well know. And in those cases, most of the year, students can actually just go online and request a room change themselves without having to actually even talk to anybody. And so typically, a few weeks into each semester, we open our room change process. That is all done on the my.missouri-state.edu portal, and they can simply just request a room change through that means if they so would like to. So I talk about like the housing policy and students being required to live on campus, but there's a lot of advantages for students living on campus. So of course we have 15 really great living learning communities on campus. Those communities are either theme-based, like our Bears for Sustainability, where the students who live on that floor simply are all kind of surrounding the theme of Mother Nature, if you will. So sometimes those students will go, like they recently just went on a powerhouse tour here on campus to learn about energy consumption of our campus and how we as a campus environment can be more sustainable. We also have academic themed communities. For example, our Bears Business Living Learning Community. Bears Business essentially means that all the students who are on that floor are all in the College of Business. So that way they're taking classes, with their peers. They're also, engaged in, sometimes having the same faculty members. So it's just a really great environment for students to choose if they're interested in either a theme-based or academic-based living learning community. We've got 15 choices for students to consider there. There's a number of great leadership and employment opportunities when they live with us on campus. With regards to our leadership opportunities, students can be engaged in a hall council, which is like a building student organization where they can have a voice living on campus, giving feedback to our leadership team, but also planning fun events and just making friends and building leadership skills at its core. If they want to take a larger student organization jump, we've got a residence hall association that is a campus-wide organization that students can be involved with. Again, building those leadership skills, planning fun events and activities, and engaging, having their voice heard. As you're well aware, we probably have resident assistants on every floor within our residence life system, and that is a great opportunity not only for our students to be aware of and engage with their RA as a resource, but also to become a student leader as an RA. We do offer free housing, meals, and a monthly stipend and a bookstore voucher for our RAs. So it's a really great opportunity, especially if you've got students who are great leaders looking to offset the cost of college. I mentioned also employment opportunities here. We hire over 150 student desk workers each year and over 300 students within residence life alone each academic year. Those positions include everything from student desk workers, student help, like technology help desk consultants, student graphic designers, paint crew, moving crew, custodial crew, a number of different opportunities for students to engage in, again, if they're looking to offset the cost of college through employment opportunities within residence life. Now, we have a number of support systems on campus, including 24-hour front desks at all of our residence halls. So any time of day or night a student has a need, they can come to the residence hall and get assistance and support. Now that could be, a maintenance concern, a roommate concern, maybe they're just a student in crisis. It could be any number of things. Our 24-hour front desks are really there. And then we have kind of these layers upon layers of staffing who are on call and can support the student any time of day. We do support academics through a number of specific means. One, we have 24-hour computer labs in every residence hall. So when their laptop dies in their room and they're trying to complete that homework assignment or test, by midnight, they can run down to the computer lab right in the residence hall and still get it done on time. Also, we provide students the opportunity to print 350 free pages to their front desk within their residence hall. They can print from their residence hall computer lab to the front desk, or even from their room to the front desk, so that when they're working on a paper project assignment, they have the means right there without even having to leave the building. We have designated study areas. We do have policies and enforce quiet hours on campus. And of course, we've got, we have the ability, or all of our residence halls are pretty much within like a 10-minute walk from like the library, the Placer Student Union, and all those kind of campus resources so that students can take advantage of the Bear Claw and those resources when they're available in a convenient and easy way. Now, I mentioned earlier that our students who live on campus have really great academic success. Our students who live on campus outperform their peers who live off campus with having a higher GPA, and we have over 25 years worth of data that shows this. Now, that trend is not just for freshmen, it's for sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So when students tend to live with us, they have a higher GPA. Now, our students also, when they live with us, are more likely to retain from their first year to their second year, and they're also more likely to graduate. So kind of any way you look at slicing, student success, it definitely is beneficial for the students to live on campus with us. And therefore, that's why our housing policy is truly rooted in data. Now, knowing that our students are going to want to live on campus, I want to talk about how they complete that housing application. The housing application is found in the my.missouri.state.edu portal. And so you can kind of see what that housing card looks like right there on the screen. Our housing contracts are for a full academic year. Within the housing contract is when they preference things like their building, their roommate, what meal plan they want, a living learning community they might want to live in, and then answer a series of roommate matching questions. So the roommate matching questions helps us really identify if students, how we match them with our computer algorithm, essentially, whether they stay up late, get up early, like to have a clean or messy room, those kinds of things. By and far, students allow us to do the roommate matching. And so around 80% of our students have us match them with a roommate as they're an incoming student. So that is the most common way that students get matched with roommates. There are 3 parts to that housing contract. The first part is the $100 housing deposit. But I do want to also note that when students pay that $100 housing deposit, if they continue to live with us year after year after year, that $100 housing deposit simply rolls over. So they can pay the $100 housing deposit as an incoming freshman. And when they graduate with us, they can actually get that $100 housing deposit back as long as they don't have any damages in the room. So that is the one piece to the housing contract. The second is meeting the meningitis requirement, either by having their vaccination records on file at Majors Health and Wellness Center or by meeting it through a waiver. And then the third part is a parent co-signature if they are under 18. So once they have a completed housing contract on file with us, we talk about housing assignments. This is probably one of the more complicated things that our office does is housing assignments. But we're not sitting behind the scenes, behind the green screen, if you will, just matching students willy-nilly. It's all done through our computer system, essentially best matching students based on their preferences that they indicate in the housing application. So once a student has a completed housing application, they're eligible for assignment. For incoming students, so for example, the students that are joining us in August, we will be releasing those housing assignments at the end of April, and then we'll be making those housing assignments at the end of each month thereafter. So the end of April, the end of May, June, etc. For our current students, we typically open that application for students to reapply to live with us from their 1 year to the next. And we do that, we open it around October. And then students can actually choose what residence hall they want to live in. So we have, a number of students who've actually already retained and are joining us again next year with a housing contract on campus, and they've already selected where they're going to live. The only exception to that is our on-campus apartments. So Sun Villa and Monroe are our 2 on-campus apartment complexes. We have around 350 bed spaces in those. They are highly competitive, as you can imagine, for students to live on campus in our apartments. And so we do make those in a very intentional process, and those assignments are typically released around February. So next, I want to talk about those students who are required to live on campus but don't want to. So they want to live off campus. There are several exceptions processes with this that I want you to know. So first and foremost, if a student wants to live off campus, they can go to our website on our forms page, and then they can request an exception to live off campus if it's before the semester begins, or if it's after the semester begins, that's a contract breakage. So I want to kind of talk through what that looks like. The request for exceptions, there are some that are typically granted. That's going to be a student who is commuting within 45 miles, and they're living with a parent or grandparent. So that process is, essentially they go online. There's a commuter exception form that they can complete. We double check that, they're living with their parent or grandparent within 45 miles, and we approve those. And then some other exceptions to our housing policy essentially are if a student is married and has that marriage certificate, if they have children, of course, they can live off campus. And then we do have some specific criteria for students who are wanting to live in the fraternity or sorority house, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Now, sometimes we hear from students that they have extreme financial need or a medical need to live off campus. We also process those requests as well. If they say that they have an extreme financial need, because the cost of attendance at Missouri State, it does account for the housing and meals component to the cost of attendance. We work with financial aid office to make sure we understand a student's financial profile. So then they help us understand, does a student have extreme need? Is that need met by aid? And then we help identify if the student has an off-campus alternative that is more affordable than what we can offer them on campus. Sometimes students need to live off campus for a medical need, and in those cases, we work with the Disability Resource Center to make sure that their needs are evaluated before we would grant a request in that area. Now, then there are sometimes just other extenuating circumstances, and in that case, then you can direct students to our office to make sure that they understand how they can request a different need to live off campus when they would otherwise be required to live on campus. There are a few things that are coming up kind of in this semester that I want you to know about, because you're going to have students who are visiting you asking, hey, I want to live off campus, but I have a housing hold, and they are sure and positive that they are going to reach or surpass 27 past credit hours. In those cases, you can direct them to their my.missouristate.edu. Under the housing card, there is a link that is to request to live off campus. It's called the Pending 27. They know they're going to get 27 credit hours. They can complete that. It will automatically release the housing hold even after hours, so no one has to be in the office to process those. However, I do want to recognize that it is a commitment for the student to say, I will reach those 27 hours, or I will live on campus. So that is what they are agreeing to when they complete that pending 27 form that does automatically release the housing hold for them to be able to get registered any time of day or night. I mentioned earlier, we do have an exceptions process for our fraternity and sorority life students. We want to make sure that we are setting students up for success if they're going to live off campus in an FSL house. And so we do have requirements to make sure that that organization's house has a GPA that is going to be conducive for student success. And so we have a process in which they can request the opportunity to live in an FSL house with just 24 hours, as long as they themselves and their house both have a GPA, again, that's conducive for student success. Now, sometimes we have students who are currently living with us and they want to leave and live off campus during the academic year after they've signed a housing contract with us. To know a few things, we do evaluate those very similarly, if you will, to an exception to live off campus before they join us. In which, if they say they have a financial need, we're going to work with financial aid. If they have a medical need, we're going to work with the Disability Resource Center, or another extenuating circumstance, they can explain that to us. If they are breaking their housing contract when they would otherwise be required to live with us on campus, there are fees associated with that. So we like for students to visit with our office, either in person or over the phone, to understand what the process looks like, what information they would need to provide to us to have their situation considered, and then that way they fully also understand those fees associated with it as they're making the request. They know what they're asking for and can be fully informed. Next, I want to share a little bit of information about some residence life initiatives. So some kind of maybe little hidden secrets, if you will, about some things that Residence Life does. We do support some proactive registration efforts. So we work with Nathan in the registrar, and when he sends us a list of students that are not yet registered, we do have an effort in which our resident assistants are shoulder tapping our students who are not registered to go meet with an academic advisor to get registered, or sometimes to kind of get over the hurdles if they need to talk with financial aid, and trying to point them in the right direction. So know that whenever we know that students who are living on campus aren't registered, we also are, making sure that we're trying to see them in person and say, hey, go talk with your academic advisor. So we're sending them to you so that they can take care of the steps they need to get registered for the following term. We do also have a program called 6-Week Trial Housing for our approved commuter students. So we fully recognize that a number of our students might live off campus with, again, a parent or grandparent within 45 miles. And when they do, we offer them the option, if they wanted to live with us for just the first 6 weeks, they can. We know that those first 6 weeks are so critical in making connections. Living on campus is a great way to do that, getting connected to those resources, making friends, and feeling that connection to Missouri State as a whole. And so we do offer this 6-week trial housing for students who would like to do that. A common question we get is, does it cost more? It doesn't. Uh, Essentially, if a student wants to live with us for those first 6 weeks and they are an approved commuter student, they only pay the daily housing and meal rates for those first 6 weeks. There's no upcharge, there's no additional cost. And then what we tell those students, if they want to continue living with us right in their same residence hall room at the end of that 6 weeks, they can. They're more than welcome to. A number of students choose to just stay right where they're at and live with us the rest of the semester, and that's fine. Or they can truly move off campus with no penalty. So we typically hear from students that they either want to continue to live with us, or this last semester we had a student who absolutely said, well, I would love to live on campus, but my parents really want me at home. So we understand that. So they moved back home after the 6 weeks, but they were able to at least to make some friends while living on campus and get connected and feel at home here at Missouri State in those first 6 weeks. So just know that that is an option. If students are interested in that, we usually send them information after they're an approved commuter via email and a mailer and like a snail mail mailer in the U.S. mail. And then we also typically try to meet with them at SOAR over the summer if they're an incoming student, just to let them know that this is an option, because sometimes our students are on the fence about living on campus or living at home. We do also have a program it is what it is. We call it free Pell eligible summer housing. There are some criteria, though, in which students have to complete as this incentive. So one, they have to be Pell eligible. Two, they do have to complete a spring housing contract with us, a summer housing contract with us, and also the next year, 24-25 academic year contract with us. It is a reapplication incentive so that those students who continuously live with us, who are Pell eligible, have that option. Now, a few things to note. They have to be enrolled in at least 3 credit hours during the full summer term. And that's because there are some financial aid implications there. And then I also want to note that this is free Pell eligible summer housing, and that the meal plan is not free. They still have to pay for the meal plan. So there are some costs, and we want to be transparent about this program for students who choose that. Next, we are excited to share we are opening Kentwood Hall again in this next year. We are thrilled. If you were curious who is going to live there, we actually there's 4 floors, residential floors. 3 of them are going to be for returning upper class students, and 1 is going to be specifically designated for our transfer living learning community. So it is still open for our transfer students to join us and live on that floor. If you are curious, the building is full except for that transfer floor that we haven't assigned yet. So we are very excited. I think students are excited about Kentwood as well. A few things to know if you didn't know about Kentwood Hall. There are 101 bed spaces in Kentwood. And within the building, of those 101 spaces, 53 of them are private rooms with their own bathroom. So we really think that this lends itself well to our upperclassmen love living on campus and are going to love Kentwood Hall as we reopen it again. It's close to downtown. It's got great parking, really probably the best parking of all of our spaces on campus, truly a plethora right outside their front door. And it's on the Bear Line shuttle system, so they can truly just hop on the Blue Line and come right back to campus for classes and activities in the evening. So it's a great way to get involved as a on-campus student, but still having kind of that small community feel. So We're excited again to open Kentwood Hall. If you have any questions, you can either drop them in the chat or I can answer them at the end of our presentation. And then also, we have for our returning students, so those students who are currently living with us, who are going to reapply and retain to live with us next year. Sometimes we hear from our returning students they want more privacy. We understand that. And so we have offered private rooms in Freddie and Wells for only $800 more a semester for the students who are going to live with us next year if they want that option. I will tell you those have grown in popularity, and some of those floors that we have allocated for private spaces are also getting full. So we know that students want that privacy and are excited about that option as well. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight as to some current programs if you're meeting with students to know about. I would say especially that free Pell eligible summer housing piece, because here soon students are going to start thinking about summer school, etc. So you can kind of keep that on your radar. Now, I mentioned earlier that there are several areas of residence life. So it's not just all business services and the housing policy. We have a really great program overall. And, we've got really great staff in our education and development area, great facilities, and great dining services. I think the one takeaway kind of overall that I hope that you all remember today is that if there is a student who has a need with regards to anything, we hope that you send them to us to help them. So that might be a roommate concern. That might be a maintenance or facilities issue in their room. That might mean a dietary concern in the dining centers. We want to make sure that we're taking care of students. And so if you can send them our way, we are happy to make sure that we're helping them navigate our system. Residence life is a big department on campus, but it doesn't feel that way when you get students connected with the right person. So that is our goal. And we've got folks who are always willing and able to answer questions, again, 24 hours a day at our front desks. So if a student is like, I don't know where to go or who to talk to, you can always have them start with the front desk. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a helpful kind of guidance in the right direction for our students who live with us. Now, there are a few things I want to share with you. We do have a link on our webpage. We have a lot of great resources on our website. But on our main website for Residence Life on the left-hand side, there's a kind of all of our forms. And this helps guide students whether they're trying to live off campus before the semester begins, if they're trying to request to live off campus after the semester begins and they're in a housing contract. So it kind of gives a flow chart of forms that students might need to complete. Also know that if you are sitting with a student or you have a student situation and you're unsure in any regards with, if are they required to live on campus? Are they not? What any questions with regards to that housing policy, you can call our office and we would be happy to look that student up and their specific situation to make sure we're taking care of students one student at a time. That really prevents that kind of runaround, if you will, on campus as much as possible. You can call, you can email, any way, shape, or form you want to get the student or their situation on our plate. We can make sure we're addressing it so that we can take care of the student and what they're requesting to do. I also want to talk about 3 kind of unique ways that you can engage with residence life. And the first one is Bear Crew. So we have a welcome weekend event every August with lots of welcome activities. And a part of that is getting students moved into the residence hall. And so we have students and staff and faculty members who join us each August to help welcome students to move into the residence halls. Sometimes and it doesn't mean carrying boxes all the time. It can just be, wearing a bright colored t-shirt with a big smile and holding open the door and telling them welcome, come on in, right? So that's a great opportunity if you're looking for just kind of an easy way to get involved and say hello as our students are coming onto campus. I will tell you, August is kind of one of my favorite times of year because there is such great energy in August when everybody is moving in. I don't think it gets any more exciting than that. So I encourage you to consider Bear Crew as an option for helping students get moved in. The second one is house calls. So, house calls is an opportunity for us to visit the students in their spaces. Typically, it happens about a week after school starts. And it is a wonderful opportunity for, again, our staff and faculty to visit students in their residence hall rooms, ask what questions they have, help them really get connected to resources on campus. Sometimes it's to plug a program within your unit or area, and so I think I think sometimes we've got sometimes our athletic coaches who are like, hey, and PS, you can come to our games for free. So making sure that you're getting the opportunity to plug what, your specialty area might be is great, but it's an opportunity to really visit with the students on campus to make sure that they're feeling welcome and that they're feeling connected and that they know what their resources are and helping them feel at home in our residence halls. So, again, another great opportunity that I encourage you to consider is the House Calls program. Again, that happens usually about a week after school starts. We do usually provide you with some really great Missouri State apparel as a little added incentive, and a dinner just when as we talk about kind of what it's going to be like. Now, you might be thinking, I'm an introvert. That may not sound interesting to you. I will say that it is easier than it sounds. And we will even provide you with some, conversation prompts to kind of get the conversation flowing with the students. And you're also paired with a resident assistant to hopefully make it easy to kind of go from door to door and see how the students are doing. So, again, I hope that you consider the house calls option as well. And then finally, another option that you can consider if you're looking to take kind of that extra step as a year-long commitment or even a semester-long commitment as an LLC partner. And so we do have those 15 great living learning communities. Some are theme-based, some are academic-based. And if you're interested and you're like, wow, that bears for sustainability. That sounds like just a cool themed floor. And I have a passion for sustainability. Know that you are more than welcome to be a partner for our students in that community. Anytime we can provide opportunities in which students can connect with staff and faculty on campus, it really breaks down the barriers and makes it seem more attainable for them to easily ask a question of an academic advisor, easily ask a question of a staff or faculty member, easily kind of feel like we're people too, and they can come to us in those for questions and things. And so you can be an LLC partner and be at those programs. You can help us plan fun events and activities for students. You can go on a powerhouse tour or sometimes a kayaking trip or something like that if you're interested, or you can take a little less a little less effort if you're interested and just be present and available for answering questions for students as a part of those living learning communities. So I would say those are probably some of the great options to engage with residence life throughout the year to consider. And of course, you can always send students our way to residence life if they have any questions, or you can always call over to us as well. I am going to go ahead and end my presentation there. And I don't know if there are maybe some questions in the chat that I might be able to assist with. If you're looking at the chat at this point in time, I do want to remind you something that Ross mentioned earlier. Make sure to drop your name and your area into the chat so that you can kind of get the credit for attending today. But let's see if I can maybe skim through. Oh, we've got some good praises for Bear Crew and House Calls. So thank you for that. Being an LLC partner is a really great option for getting involved on campus. And so a great option there. Let's see.
Hey, Angie, there was a question about is there a list of current LLC programs?
Yes, that's a great question. So we do have a list of LLCs that we can share with you. I'm going to go ahead and just drop the link into the chat if that's okay. That way you can kind of read up on some of them if you have a moment there. So that walks you through the 15 LLCs. Every year kind of changes a little bit. So for example, next year, we had a lot of interest in the Leadership LLC and our Creative Minds LLC. So we've actually added floors next year for those two LLCs. So we kind of expand, where students have an interest. and provide more floors and opportunities for students to live there. But these are at its core the 15 LLCs that you can work with. And if you're interested, you can reach out to me, Residence Life, or LLC office to get paired up with one of those to become a partner if you're interested. Great question.
Yeah, and Angie, since there were a couple shout outs for Bear Crew and House Calls, can you remind everyone how to sign up for those events?
Yes. So we have usually a form that we would get you connected with here. Let me just go ahead and again link that form. It looks like the form is currently inactive, but it will be opening up here soon. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop that link into the chat so that it just lives there for you as well. So that as soon as it opens, I will say usually right around spring break is when we are opening that form for folks to commit to an August move-in and house calls event. So look for that coming soon. We also usually try to put the link for that form once it's live in the Tuesday strategic communications email. So you can also find it usually there as well.
I think that's where I usually see it in Inside Missouri State. So, yeah. Um, Angie, there's Vaughn had in the chat a student situation that she was curious if that's your. I had a student whose roommate moved out and a hold was put on the student's account. She could not change her schedule. Can you explain how this works?
A student whose roommate moved out. So I think those might be maybe two different things. So a student wouldn't have a hold on their account if their roommate moves out. So I want to clarify that. And so I guess a couple things to know. So students, when they live on campus, they aren't impacted. I should say, their financial situation, their housing hold situation is not impacted by another student. So if a student, and I might be interpreting this question incorrectly, and if I am, just either
No,
repeat it.
no, that's, I mean, when she met with me, the only reason, and we actually worked with, I mean, she eventually worked with Residence Life to figure this out, but she was not able to register or change her schedule. And the only reason they told us was because her roommate had moved out, and because nobody had moved in and she hadn't bought it out, she couldn't change her schedule. And so that's why I'm just confused. If that's not really supposed to be the case, then I need to know that so I can advocate for her.
Yeah. So I think that one might be unique because again, a roommate situation wouldn't impact her. Now, if she had brought out a couple things, if she had either chosen to buy out the room as a private room, there's a chance that if she hasn't paid that off, she could have a financial hold. So that is maybe a piece to the puzzle. If she has the choice if she wanted to buy out that room as a private. Otherwise, she would just need to be able to accept a roommate at any point in time, i.e. like leave one of the beds open, leave one of the desks open so that a roommate could move in anytime. But I do apologize. I might not be as familiar with the specific question on this one. And
That's
so
okay. Thank you.
I will say if a student has a financial hold, and this maybe isn't housing, then sometimes it can be tricky to even drop classes. I do know that we have heard, that students have a hard time even dropping classes. And so if they have that financial hold. And again, if they have a private room that they haven't paid their bill down, that could be maybe the piece to the puzzle that I would think might be impacting that student in that situation. And then another question it looks like in the chat, would a student be charged for a private room if their roommate moves out? The answer to that is no. Again, they have the choice to buy out that room if they wanted to. But when students buy out a private room, it costs a time and a half the cost of the room. So that choice is a financial decision and not for everybody, to be quite honest. And so although students might want privacy, I don't always recommend that they just jump to buying out a private room. They just need to be, again, open to having some other student move in that room and keeping one of the beds open, and, keeping the closet open so that when a student shows up, they have somewhere to put their clothes. But they would not be charged for a private room if they don't choose it. So that is a good question. Also, when students are either completing the housing application and completing, I want a private room, they have to acknowledge multiple times that they are willing to pay that additional time and a half, the cost. And then we also send them a follow-up email before we make assignments to say, one last time, here's your opportunity to change that. Because if you really don't want it, we want to be transparent about the costs. So, I'll be honest, I don't know that I would have been able to afford a private room in college whenever I was in college. And so it is a financial choice that we want students to be aware of before they make the choice. Even if, let's say, their roommate moves out and they're like, I want to buy this room out as a private, we will communicate with them in an email and have them complete a form that says, I fully acknowledge I will be charged a time and a half for the rest of the semester. So, or for the rest of the year, if that applies. So, but they would not be charged a private room rate if the student moves out. They wouldn't be charged. Good questions.
And Angie, I'll ask a question. Since some students, and I apologize if you already said this and I missed it, but many students will use the summer semester to reach the 27 credit hours to live off campus. Remind me of that process as far as, do they need to show you an unofficial transcript that shows that they're registered for that summer course, or do they just need to submit a final transcript? And then once a student fills that out, how long typically does it take for that HR hold to be removed?
Good question. If they are looking to reach that 27 hours over the summer, they can complete the pending 27 form. Again, that form is found in their my.missouri-state.edu portal under the housing card, and it's called the pending 27. And students will, in that form, say, I know I will reach or surpass 27 hours, or I will plan to live on campus. I will reach or surpass the 27 hours by taking a summer class either here at Missouri State or somewhere else. And so they'll answer those questions. But as soon as they hit submit to that form, it automatically releases the housing hold. Now, there might be a 5-minute delay or something like that for the servers to update, since Banner's in the cloud now, but essentially that takes place immediately. They can do that during the day or even after hours, really any time of day. They can complete that pending 27 form, and it does release the housing hold immediately for them to be able to get registered. As far as then follow-up goes, once they have their transcript on file with Missouri State, we are able to see those 27 hours in the housing office. And so they kind of drop off our list. Now, if we get to August and they're still waiting on, turning in their transcript from a summer class, we're going to nag them about it. We're going to send them emails. We're going to be calling, because we want to make sure that they get those credit hours on file with Missouri State so that we can see and everyone can see that they have reached or surpassed the 27 credit hours at that point in time. So I will be honest that we can sometimes be nagging for those students in August if they haven't gotten those credits on file through an official transcript sent to Missouri State.
And Angie, when a student, because a lot of times we do have, especially our first time new in college students, will meet with an advisor and, the roommate struggle, is it best to point the student in the direction of the RA as the first point of contact?
So I will say we always like to direct students to an RA first. There are some low-level roommate situations, be it, someone's not taking the time to clean the suite bathroom, or, I'm always buying the toilet paper. Low-level roommate things that can be essentially resolved with roommate mediation and some good communication skills. The RAs can handle that. Now, I will say every now and then, even I hear of a roommate situation that raises an eyebrow, and I think, okie dokie, we're going to do this. And that's kind of a big deal. Then honestly, I would always encourage folks to know that we have a full-time university staff member called a hall director in each building that we can reference a student to, They work typical hours, you know, a 9 to 4:30 kind of hours during the day. And then they're also seen at events and programs in the evening. They can help with the student navigate those roommate concerns if it is a more serious roommate concern. I also recognize some campuses room changes are really difficult or they cost money, things like that, but not at Missouri State. So pretty much almost, you know, throughout the academic year, students can do a room change. I like to say almost any time, but there are a few periods of time in which the system is shut off. We don't want, you know, we turn it off over Thanksgiving break, winter break, and spring break because we don't want students moving over break periods. But otherwise, students can go on to their my.missouri.state.edu portal. They can go to the housing card and they can actually see our room change system. They can see open spaces in real time and they can request it. They can even see who else is in the room or suite and how they answered roommate matching questions. So there's a lot of flexibility for students to have kind of drive the process of a room change during the year. And when they request a room change, they don't always talk to anybody about it. Sometimes they're not talking to their RA or even their roommate that they want to make a room change. And so there is a way for students to be able to make a change if they need to without having to, you know, do a whole lot of extra effort, I guess. So
There haven't been any more questions in the chat feature. Any other questions for Angie? Okay. Well, Angie, thank you so much for presenting this information today. It has been very beneficial, and I know that advisors across campus now will be able to share that with other advisors in their units. And again, it really helps us with our job. So thank you for representing Residence Life and being with us today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the advisor forum. Happy Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully I will see you again on Monday, February 26th. Thank you.